Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our third and final series in the Dullah Omar School Capacitating the Advice Office Sector webinar series. So, one of the reasons we've done this is because the Dullah Omar School is particularly small this year, but we also wanted to introduce people to some of the topics from this year's DOS so that everybody, regardless of whether they were coming to DOS, could gain some insights. So our first one was about an introduction to local government. Our second one was an introduction to mediation. And now our third one is on an introduction to NPO governance. Thank you very much for joining. And again, like I've said, can people please keep their cameras off and their sound muted so that we don't mess with the recording, and we also don't use too much data or bandwidth for people. And that all of these three webinars are available on the Black Sash YouTube page if you want to access them. And I think, there are also lots of resources on the SCAT, Black Sash, and Northwest University Law Clinic's social media pages. So we have, you came up there like a light, like it was first dark and then it lit up like an angel. So we have everybody's favorite person here. I don't know anyone who doesn't say Vuyo is their favorite. Vuyo Msizi is going to be taking us through his presentation, and I think he will allow for time for questions because I think that when there's a lot of people, it's very difficult to manage the chat. But let's. I'm going to hand it over to Vuyo, and thank you everybody for joining us. Please, I want to ask that those who are coming to DOS do not put questions in the chat for the logistics committee, like when am I getting my travel stipend, when am I getting my bus ticket. This is not for them. This is not that opportunity, but we will of course have the onboarding webinar on I think the 7th for the DOS participants. So thank you very much, and over to you, Vuyo.
Thank you, Amanda. I am a little bit challenged because of this thing of the technological capabilities. And I'm going to shoot straight. I think the theme of the day of today is NPO governance. And the great thing that you have mentioned is that you have a big group. Maybe it might not also be appropriate also to have maybe small groups, I don't know. But I think what is important is to first to understand that our core focus today is good governance. Good governance is paramount, is the core. But we need to ask ourselves, what is good governance and what is NPO governance, so that we can delve on this topic. Governance.
Sorry, Vuyo, do you want to press from beginning so that it's the whole screen, your slideshow? If you just press that from beginning, then it will show big on the screen.
Oh, good. Oh, that's what I'm grappling with.
There you go.
I needed a little bit of technical support. That's what I was requesting.
Okay,
Yes.
and if you need us to break into groups, then just let us. If you want us to break participants up into groups later on, then Koliwe does have that capability. You just need to let us know.
Oh, thank you for your intervention, man. Yeah. All right. I'm learning as I'm moving forward. Yes. As I mentioned, that our focus is good governance. Yes. Let us go to the definition of good governance so that we are all in the same page. Good governance encompasses the systems by which an organization is controlled and operates, and mechanism by which it and its people are held accountable. It is a mechanism that assists organizations to account for their actions, decisions, responsibility, behavior. It can also be the performance of an organization or deployment of vision, mission, and the objectives of an organization. And it can also be a style of leadership in that specific organization. One must really account how he or she has arrived to a certain decision. And that is governance. And the accountability is being open about what you do, answering for the decisions, answering for the work of the organization, answering how the money is being spent. Governance is an overall complex system, and it is a framework of processes, functions, structures, rules, and laws. Once again, it is a mechanism that assists an organization to account about its actions, decisions, and responsibilities. Good governance is about accountability for the organization, ensuring activities are in line with the strategy of an organization. Accountability about the delivery of services and also about the compliance with the legislative framework. Like we do have what is the NPO Act number 71 of 1997. A registered NPO must comply with the legislative requirements of NPO Act. But also the good governance or governance structure must also exercise oversight and also reflect and report about budgets and programs, whether the programs was well implemented and how they spent money for that specific financial year. And it's also about exercising, ethical leadership, effective leadership. And especially in South Africa, the issue of ethics is a big issue now because we have seen the level of corruption in government, in civil society, in the private sector. And when you go to the King Code or to the King Code or King Commission report, you'll see that the issue of ethical leadership is exemplified, and the issue of integrity, competence, responsibility, accountability, fairness, and transparency are also prioritized and highlighted. The big question, why? Why is good governance needed in NPOs? First, I think I must say that it is a requirement for many funders. If you want to access financial resources, the funders will ask, who are the board members? Do you have a governance structure? And if you do not have a governance structure, then many funders will not go in that space and provide financial resources. But also, it's about accountability and proper control, because they want to know whether in your organization you have proper control. And proper control is being able to manage your financial resources, being able to manage the utilization of your material resources, information resource, Are you able to do that as an organization? Do you have internal accounting processes within the organization? Those are the questions that the outside world or the donors are interested to know. But good governance is ensuring that you comply not only with the NPO Act, but also there are other pieces of legislation like the Constitution Act number 108 of 1996, the Bill of Rights. Are you complying with that in terms of the way that you are treating your staff members within the organization? And even in the execution of your services, are you complying with the Bill of Rights? And another point that must also be important, must be highlighted, is ensuring good delivery of service. Whether when you are providing or rendering services to the communities, to your defined target group, you are complying with the Bill of Rights, you are complying with the Code of Governance, but also ensure that there is staff satisfaction within your organization. And now good governance is also helping you to build a good reputation and trust, and also build relationship with organizations, with communities, citizens, and the private sector.
Sorry, Vuyo, can we ask that you just speak a dash louder, please? Just a bit louder.
A bit louder.
Yes, please.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yes.
Just a bit. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe even
Oh,
make sure your mic is at its highest level on your
I
on
will
your
do
laptop.
that. I will do
Thank you
that.
so much.
I will do that. Yes. Yeah. All right. Let's continue why good governance is needed in an organization is to ensure that there is accountability and proper control in the organization. I think I've mentioned that. And I think this one is repeating. Yes, thank you. We'll move. But down there, you can see that there is a list of other legislations that you must comply with. Like in South Africa, we also have the POPI Act, PAIA, and we have the Conditions of Employment Act, number 75 of 1997. We have the Labor Relations Act, number 66 of 1995. We have the Unemployment Insurance Act. If you are registered with that, you need to comply with that. There is also this myth or this misunderstanding that sometimes because we are an NGO, the issue of basic conditions of employment might not apply in our situation. The issue of, those pieces of legislation are also relevant for the NPO sector. But I would like also to mention that we have the corporate governance and we have public governance. Corporate governance is in the private sector. They speak about corporate governance in the private sector. But in the public sector, government is speaking about public governance. The NPOs, they are speaking about non-profit making governance. That's what we are dealing with today. Then another thing that is important is the separation of roles and responsibilities. In any organization, there are two structures that are important. There is a governance structure that is e-committee. Some might call it a management committee. In certain instances, people might also call it a board of directors because they are registered as an NPC. Some might call it board of trustees because they are registered as a trust. But there are two structures in an organization. One structure, it is the governance structure and also the staff structure. And there must be separation of roles and responsibilities to avoid confusion and the governance structure is exercising oversight, and the staff structure is engaged in implementing the day-to-day activities of an organization. And there must be no confusion between the two. Governance structure is responsible with adopting policies, constitution, plans, vision, mission of an organization. That is their responsibility. But when you go to the staff structure, their role is to execute programs and projects of an organization, is to ensure that the organization vision, mission, and the objectives and activities are well implemented. And when we speak about governance, we are speaking about these few individuals who are performing the oversight in an organization. The chairperson, the deputy chairperson, treasurer, secretary, deputy secretary, maybe also additional members. But I prefer a small number of office bearers at that level. It can be 3 people, it can be 5 people, it can be 7 people. And I always believe that less is better. When we go to the level of, I think let's go to the level, to the staff structure. The staff structure, I think what is important is that you'll find these titles: a director of an organization or a coordinator. Some might say this person is an executive director. Others might also have in their staff structure an administrator that is helping the organization in terms of administration of resources. Some might also have a financial administrator. Others might have a project officer, a paralegal, or a caseworker. And it depends how big is your organization. You might also have a person responsible in terms of managing all the programs, an overseer who's going to monitor implementation of programs and projects in your organization. You might also have an advocacy officer that is responsible in terms of ensuring that government is held accountable in terms of their responsibilities. You might also have a project officer for maybe for gender-based violence, for environmental change, for environmental justice program. It depends how you define and you structure your organization. There is no right or wrong way of structuring an organization. It depends to the needs of the organization and also to the size of the organization. But it's also about repositioning the organization to ensure that the organization is effective in terms of executing its own defined mission, vision, objectives, and activities. Maybe let's go to the level of what is accountability. What is accountability? Accountability is a state of responsible and being answerable for one's action, decision, and policies to oneself, other organization, and community. Being open about what you do, answering for your actions, answering for the work of the organization, answering for also how money is being spent. And I like this one: you do not blame others. You must account at the end of the day. You must say, I received a certain amount of money from a certain donor, and this amount, this is what I've done with this amount. You cannot shift that responsibility. And this issue of accountability is aligned with the processes of reporting. Because if you are not reporting, then you will fail to account internally and externally. And accountability helps in terms of building relationship with citizens, relationship with the funders, relationship with communities. Are there any questions?
Let me just check in the chat quickly. Okay, no, doesn't seem to be. But people can also put their questions in the chat. I'm just trying to see. No questions so far, Vuyo.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit feverish.
Vuyo, you're muted, eh? After you said you were a bit feverish, you muted yourself.
All right. There are types of accountability. There is internal.
Sorry, Vuyo, there actually is one question, which
Thank you.
is if you can expand on the duties of an administrator. I don't know if they mean the administrator of the board or the of an organization, but that's just the, I mean, and maybe you are going to address it, but that just is one question so far, which is the duties of an administrator.
The duties of an administrator in an organization. One is to communicate with the external world. Is answering calls, answering phone calls in the organization. Is communicating with the outside world, the vision of the organization, the mission of the organization, and also the services that you are rendering. And people, when they are inquiring about your services, that person is responsible with that specific duty of communicating with the external environment. But also, in terms of internally, there are administrative systems within the organization. The administrator is helping in terms of developing administrative systems in the organization and also ensuring that every document is kept in a file. And in other instances, an administrator might also be assigned with a specific task of recording financial transactions in your organization and also ensuring that the source documents are well kept, like your receipts, the invoices in the organization. And that is the role of the administrator. When reports are being submitted in certain organizations, are channeled and are forwarded to the administrator of the organization. And the administrator has a specific role of ensuring that those reports are in order. Yes, I thank you. I hope that I've answered your question. Let's move to the issue of accountability. There is an internal accountability, and this one is about self-regulation, meaning that there is no one that is instructing you, or it's your own. It is internal. It is the leaders of the organization internally, meaning that the staff structure reporting to the board or the director of the organization reporting to the staff members or staff members reporting to the programs manager. That one, it is the internal accountability. It can be horizontal and it can be vertical within the organization. But also there is external accountability when you are accounting to the external strategic partners and stakeholders. You are accounting to government, like the NPO Directorate. You are accounting to CPRO. You are accounting to SARS as a PBO, a public benefit organization, meaning that you are accounting to external organizations. And you can also account to community, hold a community meeting and engage community members about the services. Or sometimes you are just inquiring about the needs or the problems encountered by the community. There is also what is called the vertical accountability. When you are accounting to the board, there is the horizontal accountability, accounting to your peers. There is also social accountability. Then you are accounting to the members of the public. Thank you. Now I'm going to request that you assist me to divide the participants into 4 groups. The first group is going to deal with the first question: who are the CBOs accountable to? The second one: why are they accountable? The third one: how are they accountable? The fourth one: what is the purpose of the management committee? And I think let us take at least 10 minutes delving in those questions. Thank you.
Okay, Koliwe, do you want to do that? Or must I quickly do it? I've got it in front of me.
Okay, you can do it if you've done it already.
Okay, so I'm gonna assign 4. It's gonna be 20 people in a group, so that's fine. 4 breakaway groups.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, you can just you can. I'm gonna open all rooms and you can just join. Don't be scared.
Thank you. Let us now go to and allow the first group to present their contributions.
Board Voyo, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So we didn't take any notes per se, but in terms of having a real presentation on PowerPoint, but as the group, we agreed that community-based organizations / CPOs are accountable to multiple stakeholders, not just the government. And the accountability spans to both legal and ethical accountability. And just to break down the stakeholders that we said the CPOs are accountable to, we said that the communities that they serve.
Yeah,
Sorry. Kindly go on mute. Thank you. So in the CPOs being accountable to the communities that they serve, we said that they are accountable to make sure that they deliver on their mission in terms of what they said they would deliver to those communities. They are also accountable to consult communities on their needs in terms of what the communities require from CPOs. They are then also accountable to report back to the same communities that they are accountable to on the projects that they've decided to embark on representing those communities, and also on finances in terms of how they've used funding. And the CPOs are also accountable in ensuring that the services benefit the intended people or the intended communities that they serve. Under the stakeholders, we also covered government departments, that CBOs are also accountable to government departments. In the group, someone mentioned the National Department of Social Development as one of the stakeholders within the government departments that CBOs are accountable to. And we also mentioned SARS under the stakeholders that CBOs are accountable to, ensuring that annual reports are uploaded on time, and also ensuring that those reports are accurate and concise in terms of what they contain, and that they report the truth in terms of what is happening in the organization. We also mentioned CIPC as one of the stakeholders under the government departments that CPOs are accountable to. Then we also mentioned number 3, donors and funders, in terms of how funds are used, ensuring that funds are used or utilized for agreed purposes, and ensuring that financials are submitted on time and reports are submitted on time to these funders as a sign of accountability from the CBO's side. And also measuring or demonstrating measurable impact in terms of quantifying where those funds, how those funds were spent, and being able to quantify and measure the impact of those funds, and ensuring that financial records are maintained properly, accurately, and also that audits are done periodically as and when required. And then number 4, we said the board, the CBOs are also accountable to the board or the management committee. And then we then went to the general public as well, not only just the community, but the general public, where the CPOs might have impact, just in terms of ensuring transparency, in terms of ensuring integrity, ethical leadership. Yeah, I think that's about it. That's what we covered as Group 1. Thank you.
Let us show appreciation of the contribution of Group 1. Thank you, Group 1, for your contribution.
Hi, Vuyo, can you just speak a bit louder, please?
Are there any questions for Group 1? Are there any questions for Group 1? I am happy with their contribution, but I like when they are saying that you need to be honest. And I think what they also mention is that in terms of your grant agreement with your donors, there's what has been specified. When you are given money, the donors, they will say, this is for this. This is money for car, must buy a vehicle. You can't take that money and use it for another purpose. If the money is for a GBV workshop, it must be used for a GBV workshop, not for another purpose. I thank you. Let us give an opportunity to Group 2. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for the opportunity. I am Unati Pisoni. I am going to be presenting on behalf of Group 2. Our question is talks to why are they accountable? I've also included our inputs on our chat so that people can have reference for reading in future. We are the caretakers of the communities, and we need to make sure that whatever we are presenting and we are standing for, we are living to that. Also, we are accountable because we want to build trust and stakeholders' involvement so that we can recruit and also be on market for people to work with us because they know that we are accountable. Of course, it looks on sustainability of the program or programs, as you just mentioned. Now, if we are receiving grant in terms of gender-based violence, for us to have the program moving, we need to make sure we are accountable of the program that we stand for. It is also to be on a retention for longer period and partnerships, because now if we've got other organizations that works more aligned with our mission, we can bring more partnerships to have power and also to have more voice when we are addressing those matters to those who are accountable. It also to integrate with communities who believes in our in their capacity, in terms of if we are assigned to Shoshanguve and we work with them, if we are accountable, we are doing this, we go back to them, we call meetings, they will have also a better chance to be vulnerable to talk to us on more things, because they know we are not good on paper, we are on action. Also, we are on securing funding. And I've also now, as a group, we are saying an additional funding. Remember, people, they do get grants, and sometimes it becomes once off because of a lack of accountability. But now, if you are more on accountability or strains to show your transparency on financial management, there will be additional funding coming in, because now they believe and they see your moves. And of course, we are working on development people skills by tools, mapping, interpretation, and information. People, they need to be informed. And if you are transparent and you're working with them, you enhancing people's skills, the accountability is there. And also community planning and decision making. We do planning with community, we do decide with them. We move back to tell them the challenges, and also use the terminology of lesson learned, so that if there's something that we did not do accordingly, and just because of an poor oversight, if you are giving back to people who are entrusting you, there's going to be more improvements on accountability and trust. Strengthening of good governance and sustainability. And of course, this talk for today is about governance. So if you're accountable, there's more governance. And if you live with it, even if new people are joining the organization, would see the style of the organization, they will see the movement, and also how the organization is run, and they will join in. Because people, they learn to people who are in the organization first, and if they see it's corruption, they join the corruption. So it is good when you do the accountability and you tell people when they're joining in, it's part of their onboarding, they will live with that. And also sustainability, the organization will stay longer, they will have the impact footprint, and also it is also the real needs of those entrusted us. If it's about rape, we talk rape. It's about much too much, it's on much too much. You can't say we are living on this and then you flip tomorrow to other side because you see the community, or you are moved by hype. And also, lastly, we are aligning to a scope of the organization or the institution, also to the constitution that we abide with, the acts of any that deals with CPOs, the ethics, grant specification, as we've mentioned. If you're given a grant, you need to work on that. I'll make an example. If you are funded by National Treasury, they gazette that on DORA. So there are conditions that you must make sure you live to. Finally, it's vision and goals. That's whatever we are as a CPO or NPO, we live with vision and goals. So we need to make sure we are accountable also to that, so that we can be sustainable and also have the relationship with everyone that is in the process. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Group 2.
Boyo, just a reminder to you and to everyone that the webinar is only until 12, so people must just be mindful of time.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Group 2. Are there any questions for Group 2? Let us give an opportunity to Group 3. Group 3, are you there? Are we having group 3? Let us move to group 4.
Sorry, as a member of Group 3, I think I was bumped off the Zoom meeting when I joined Group 3, so I'm not sure if any member was actually in Group 3. Thank you. This is Jenny.
All right. Do you have anything to contribute, Jenny? How are they accountable?
We have group 3 members.
Okay, then they can,
Yes,
they can report.
Mandisa will report.
Thank you. Mandisa?
Oh, okay.
Mandisa will report for group 3. The notes are in the chats, Mandisa. Thank you, colleagues.
Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning. You may continue, sir.
Yes, my name is Ontihetse Metsing from Group 3.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, we, as a accountable, that was the question. And then accountable communities by participations during the AGMs, share openly with communities, reporting back to your funders. And also, what is important here, your NPO must be registered with the Department of Social Development. Also on that, submission of statement of the governance of the CPO, recording of minutes, financials, through all channels must be reported to. We must also have our own constitution that will be guiding us as the CBOs. That will be guiding us. I mean the governing of our CBO. I think that will be it, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for group 3? Any comments? Thank you, group 3. Let's go to group 4 and hear what the group.
Morning.
May you proceed, sir? Thank you.
Oh, my name is Maimani. I was in group 4. Actually, we ran out of time. We didn't even choose a spokesperson. So we had few discussions, but let me just read some of the comments. They say the purpose of management committee is to oversee CBO that they follow the mission of the organization. They oversee the running of the organization. And then actually we had a discussion about actually some of the purposes that it seems like we are mixing the board purpose and the management purpose. So where does the board, where is the purpose? What is the purpose of the board and what is the purpose of the management? Or who is the management? Who is the board? So we had a lot of discussion over that, and we are not able to dwell much on the question and answer the question. So time ran out while we are busy discussing that. So we need to be clear about the role of the board, the role of the management. Who's the management? Who's the board? And then that's That maybe I can end it there.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers. Thank you.
I think I must note, in the NPO sector or civil society sector, people sometimes are being confused by many things, like this thing of the management versus the board. And my understanding is that the management committee is it's a matter of terminology, because some people will refer to it as the board. Some might also refer to it as a management committee. And you need to be clear about the terminology. That's why in terms of this presentation, I'm presenting 2 structures in the organization, not 3 structures. The first structure is the governance structure. That is the board of directors. You can call it a board of trustees. You can call it a management committee. To me, that is one and the same thing. Then the second structure, it is the staff structure, where you'll have the director and administrator, project officers. And there are organizations that are sometimes they are confused, because within the staff structure, they will have another structure that is called a management structure. And when you check the powers of that structure, the powers of the structure are the same with the powers of the board. Meaning that if an organization is creating another structure within the staff structure, then it's creating a great confusion within the organization. You cannot have 2 structures with same powers, because each and every structure is having power and authority. And you need to differentiate between the board and the staff structure. The role of the board is simple. It's about ensuring that in your organization, there are policies. There is a clear strategic organizational direction. That is the mission, the vision, objectives, and activities. All that is clearly defined in an organization. And their role is to adopt the strategic plans or activity plan and the budget of various projects of the organization. Another role of the of the governance structure is to adopt a code of conduct, if you have a code of conduct. That is the role, but also is to exercise oversight and monitor the staff structure, whether you are performing or you are executing activities aligned to the vision, the mission of the organization. And that is their role. And their role is to ask relevant questions, but also is to provide support to the staff structure, ensuring that you do not fail as the director, you do not fail as an administrator, you do not fail as a field worker, you do not fail as a project officer in terms of executing the objectives of the organization. Their role is to measure, to sit there and measure and monitor. But you can't measure if there are no plans. You can't measure if there are no policies, because policies is about standardization. You are creating a required standard of performance. And another thing that I liked about the presentation, I think the presentation of Group 2 or maybe Group 3, was the emphasis that even in the process of planning, they are involving communities. Meaning that when you are accounting to communities, they know what you have planned. They know what you have defined as your vision. When you are coming back with a report to them, now you are joining with them. They know what you said you are going to deliver. I hope I clarified, I answered your question.
Very clearly, sir. Thank you.
May we move to another level, to another topic? I want you to know that I'm struggling with the the technological side of mine is not as strong. Now I'm trying to move to a next page. My system is failing me. All right, thank you. And I think this page is emphasizing what I said and what you articulated. The management committee or the board of directors, trustees are the people who are held accountable for the actions and the services of the organization. They are accountable to the members, donors, the public, including beneficiaries, and also to government. The buck stops with the management committee. The buck stops with the board of directors, the board of trustees. Meaning that if there's anything wrong, the board of trustees, the board of directors, the management committee must respond, must answer why the organization is not performing well in terms of its mission, vision, and objectives. What do members of the management committee do? They provide leadership for the organization. They oversee services, not necessarily do the deliver of service. They are not there on the day-to-day basis. They are not there implementing projects, activities of the organization. No. Their role is to oversee. And an overseer is ensuring that something is happening, is ensuring that there are administrative systems in an organization. There are information reporting systems within the organization. They are ensuring that the staff members develop reports and the reports are presented to the board. The reports are sent to the relevant funders without any delay. They monitor. You know, monitoring is about collection of data, relevant data, and analyze that data, interpret that data, evaluate and ensure that the delivery of the services is aligned to the strategic organizational direction. That is the mission, vision, and the mission and objectives of the organization. They ensure that the organization comply with the policy framework of the organization, but also do not forget the legislative frameworks within of the land, that is the Constitution Act and other relevant legislation. They also check whether the way you spend money within the organization is aligned to your budgetary framework. And, you know, in an organization, sometimes you'll find that, you know, the CBOs or the NPOs, they grappled in terms of the development of the budget. You cannot operate without a budget, whether you do have money, whether you do not have money. You must have the budget. Because budget is about quantification. It's about actual determining the level of performance. It's about saying, for us to do this work, we need so much, right? We have defined the vision, the mission, but for us to execute that vision, we need 500,000. Yes, we have defined gender-based violence project, and we said this is the vision, this is the mission, these are the objectives. But in terms of financial resources, the financial resources that we need so much. In terms of the people that we need as drivers of the strategy, we need so many people that can be paid. But in terms of material resources, we need so much so that we can buy stationery, we can buy data. And that's what, you know, the governance structure is using in terms of measuring the performance of the organization. Let us look now and explore the roles of the members of the management committee. You can call it a board of directors or trustees. These are called office bearers and include the chairperson. The chairperson is accountable for chairing meetings and links with senior staff members of the organization and other relevant stakeholders. You might have a deputy chairperson in your organization. You'll also have, in your structure, you might also have a treasurer. A treasurer is also there to define and develop and ensure that a financial policy is developed in an organization. You can't have a treasurer in an organization, but you do not have a financial policy. You can't have a treasurer, but you do not have a budget. You can't have a treasurer, but you don't have the financial management systems. Then you must know that you do not have maybe an authorization, how transactions are being authorized within the organization. The treasurer is responsible for that, to define what is the financial policy of the organization. Actually, we will also have the secretary that is accountable for to develop the agenda, ensuring that minutes are kept. But also the treasurer is there to define the communication strategy of the organization and assess whether the communication and the marketing strategy of the organization is effective. It's not only that for the agenda and only for the minutes, but the secretary of the organization is working well with the director of the organization, with the administrator of the organization, ensuring that the messages that are communicated to the external environment of the organization are in line with the ethics and the values of the organization. Now let us move to the development of a constitution, because one of the role of the committee or the role of governance is to ensure that there is a document called a constitution, and that document is helping an organization to register with Department of Social Development, the NPO Directorate, and then you'll receive the certificate. But that document must be a living document, and you need to adhere to that document. And that document incorporates the vision of your organization, the objectives of your organization. What are your objectives? Some they might call it goals. What is the purpose of your organization? And also the name of your organization, because the name is important. What is the name of the organization? And it must also give also information, also share information about the structure of your organization and how your organization will conduct its business, and define the duties of the office bearers, how your organization will be managed. That is your constitution. But the constitution is also dealing with financial management issues, how your finance will be managed. That your organization will be using a registered financial institution, and that your organization will also audit your financial records, but also is dealing also with issues of dissolution of the organization, issues about how are you going to amend the constitution. And you can also see from the presentation that one of the relevant the topics that will appear in your constitution is the name, is the purpose, the body corporate, that the organization will exist even if the members of the organization cease to exist, and that the organization is a separate entity from its members. Because another biggest confusion is that people, they think that they own or they are part of the organization, And the organization is, it's a separate entity from its members. Meaning that if you resign tomorrow or pass away, the organization will continue to exist, even if the members of the organization cease to exist. But the Constitution also will delve on issues of income and property. Another biggest issue is the issue of income and property, especially the founders. The founders, sometimes they think that the income of the organization is their income because they contributed a lot in terms of setting up the organization. Now you'll find that there is confusion whether the income of the organization is the income of the founder and the properties of the organizations is the properties of the founder. And that creates big confusion in many organizations. And your constitution must really state it clear that the income and the property of the organization is not the property of the members of the organization. It's not. Because the organization is a separate entity. But the Constitution must also articulate clearly the membership, how to join the organization, and how to terminate membership. And it must also define the powers within the organization, the functions of various structures within the organization. Another thing that is important is the issue of meetings. And I know sometimes people, they will recruit the board. They will go around and recruit the board just for the sake of adhering to the requirement of the founder. But the board do not convene any meetings. The board is there, but is not convening meetings. The coordinator is the one that is taking all the decision. But the board is there. There are no minutes, there's nothing in that organization. And your constitution must state it clearly that your organization must hold annual general meetings. The constitution must clearly stipulate that you must hold monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly meetings, accounting to the board. And if that is not happening, then that is a big weakness in your organization. The Constitution can also define your area of operation, your geographical area of operation, and also provide also mechanisms to resolve conflicts and disputes. The issue of limited liability is another big issue that must also be considered. The rules about finances, and also the issue of dissolution. Are there any questions? What is a volunteer association? A volunteer association is an organization formed by individuals who come together voluntarily to achieve a common goal or purpose. It is called voluntary because it is built entirely on a principle of free will. No one is forced by law or economic necessity to create that entity, to join it, to support it. Is freely formed, meaning that you are not forced by anybody. That is a voluntary association or voluntary organization. Is set up by agreement between 3 or more people to formally work together for a common purpose. It becomes legal when it has a constitution. The minute you agree that this is our constitution, you adopt that constitution, then that document, it's a legal document of your organization. This can be done without a lawyer. It does not need, you do not need to produce an audited financial statement, but a financial statement by an accounting officer. It can also be registered as an NPO, PBO, Now let us look in terms of the types of organization in South Africa. There are two types of organizations that I want to mention. In South Africa, you have a profit-making organizations. At another level, you have the non-profit making organizations. And you can see that I'm diverting a little bit from my presentation. Then the profit making will be companies that are generating profit, but the non-profit making organization are the faith-based organizations. The women's manyano, the men's manyano enkonzweni. You might also have non-governmental organizations like Sangoko. You might also have the civil society, all the CPOs, NGOs, the unions. You'll also have the CPOs, the community-based organizations, the grassroots organizations working in various communities, doing the dirty work, the actual dirty work, the food soldiers. Those are the non-profit making organizations. I have noted that there are many formations, and sometimes it's a matter of terminology. Many people might speak about board of trustees, board of directors, but in terms of the NPOs, the NPO sector, I'm going to emphasize the management committee as a governance structure. And that structure, after setting up that structure in an organization, you need a guiding document that is your constitution. And I've already mentioned that you need 3, 5, or 7 people. Unfortunately, I do not prefer many people. In South Africa, you might see that organization might have 15 people in their governance structure. I prefer a smaller number of people, 5, 7. And I've already mentioned that you'll register with Department of Social Development. I don't think I need to dwell on this one. Thank you. And I've articulated that this organization is not owned by anyone. Their members and its management committee do not benefit financially from the funding. The only thing that they get is stipend, salaries, and also if they spend money, they can claim but present a certain body of evidence that this is what I've done. I've used my financial resources. Then the organization can reimburse that specific person for the financial can invest according to the stated or the presented evidence. But they do not own, they cannot just benefit from the financial resources without any reason. An NPO can also register as a public benefit organization because they perform public benefit activities. an NPO, non-profit making organization, can register with SARS because they perform public benefit activities. But of course, the minute you register with a certain department, there are registration requirements that after a certain period, you must go back and account and say, this is how we have mobilized and we have received so much, and this is what we have done for a period of 12 months. If CBOs seek donor funding, they need to register as an NPO, as a public benefit, because this is also a requirement from other funders in South Africa that you must register now for NPO and register as a PPO. The minute you register as a PPO, register as an NPO, you must develop an annual report. There are certain responsibilities. You must develop an annual report that will be presented to the Register of NPO Directorate. You must also develop an annual financial statement. But you must also address the issue of retired or recruit new board members. And I understand this one is a little bit of a challenge, especially in many organizations. Because sometimes you'll find that people have recruited new board members, but those board members were not forwarded to the NPO Directorate. They are only recorded in their minute book, but the board members are not in the NPO Directorate. And that will cause a problem in the future. You know, the benefits, the public benefit status. When you go to government, approaching government for financial resources, government will be encouraged to provide support to your organization. I know in the Eastern Cape, we have also IDT. IDT, they emphasize that organization must register as a PPO, but they also must register as an NPO. There are other national funders that will also require that from organizations. Another thing that is important, the PPO status, it is not automatic, meaning that if you are registered as an NPO, that is not automatic, because that is a tax exemption, because in terms of the Income Tax Act, there is what is called the donation tax, meaning that you cannot just be exempted from paying donation tax without applying for exemption from SARS, meaning that you need to take that route and apply for tax exemption. You need now to, one of the important things, as we mentioned before, the funds must be used for public interest.
Hello? Koliwe, can you hear me?
Hi,
like
yes, I can hear you.
Looks like we lost Fuyo. Vuyo,
Yes, I think we have lost
Yes,
him.
I think we
We didn't
just
miss
lost
him.
him.
Oh, so we lost Vuyo. I thought I lost you guys.
Yes.
Okay. Let's just give him a few moments to rejoin. I think we are in the last 20 minutes of the webinar, so let's just give him a second. Nicole, I don't have Vuyo's number. Can you just find out if everything is
I'll call him.
okay? Thanks, Koliwe.
There's quite a few questions in the chat. I don't know if maybe you and Jonathan might want to answer some of those while we're waiting for Vuyo.
okay. If I may, there's a question there. Oh, not a question, basically. It's a request that Mr. Vuyo go back on the function of the treasurer and the people that works with the treasurer, right? Now, the functions of the treasurer obviously is firstly the person who is nominated or elected to be the treasurer in any organization should be a person who is not compromised or conflicted in different ways. In other words, it should be a person who is trustable because the money or the funds that's given to an organization, whether privately or publicly, that money should be administered without any form of criminality or engaging in criminality. For example, corruption or fraud. And obviously the role of the treasurer is to ensure that there is compliance with the organization's financial and reporting responsibilities. And then my nonprofit is registered as an NPC with CIPRO. Is this also acknowledged? Okay, let me answer that in this way. Non-profit companies are registered in terms of the Companies Act, and the Companies Act sets very, very strict legal obligations for organizations in terms of governance and accountability. So there, the financial reporting requirements is much more stricter as opposed to the financial reporting requirements for the non-profit sector. And then Irene said here, in this monthly and bi-monthly meetings, when you report, must be in the report. If I understand Irene's point, my answer would be in any organization, whether you are a church or a sport club or an NPO, reporting on organizational activities or programs or projects is an accountability requirement. And obviously, the setting of meetings in an organization would be determined by the organization's founding document, which is the Constitution. And very importantly, in South African law, minutes of meetings must be kept and filed. And obviously, when it's time for auditing, auditors also audit minutes of meetings. So it's very important for organizations to remember that Minutes is a legal, the keeping of proper minutes, which is a record of meetings, is a strict legal requirement. And then, then there is from Louisa Solomon. What are the differences between an NPO and a voluntary organization? I think Vuyo already explained and clarified the differences for an NPO and a voluntary association. And then what kind of information about retired or board members, and this is from my Mane. The 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 board of an organization or a management of an organization may determine the retirement age of a staff member. And yeah, I unfortunately I'm not a tax expert on Lerato's tax query, and then yeah. I hope I was helpful, Koliwe, Amanda.
Yes, you were helpful. Thanks, Jonathan. I think Putvuyo is back.
I'm connecting via my
recording in progress.
All right, that's good. All right, I must just all right. I want to apologize.
There's a disturbance from Vuyo's side. Yeah.
All right. I want just to apologize first for this. I had technical problems. The system has kicked me out, and as I was presenting, yes. But the great emphasis is that registering as an NPO, as a PPO, it will help you to access financial resources from the private sector and from the public sector, because it is a requirement of certain donors. You must have that registration status. Yes. Let's move to the issue of contracts, because the governance structure is also,
Sorry, Putvuyo.
yes.
Do you mind speaking just a bit louder? We're struggling to hear you properly, please.
All right. There is the issue of contracts. The governance structure is also responsible to sign contracts, various contracts with different funders. And also they are also responsible to represent, the organization, especially when there is a certain possibility of funding. The director of the organization can also rope him or her in, the chairperson or the deputy chairperson, with an intent to provide support, especially presenting the vision, the mission of the organization to the funders. And also what helps in terms of that is also demonstration of the strength of the organization and that the organization is also complying with the codes of good governance. And that helps a lot, because sometimes when a director is there or the staff members, some donors might also ask whether are you having a staff, are you having a governance structure, and it is good to see one of the board members of the board present in those meetings, and that strengthens your position, especially when you are presenting a funding proposal to a funder. But contracts, we do not sign contracts just for fun. You sign contracts, you must ensure that you comply with what has been stipulated in the contracts. And the board members are there to ensure and monitor whether what you are executing on monthly basis is aligned with what has been stipulated in the donor contracts. And I think we have mentioned that the organization has a responsibility to comply with the legislative framework of the country, like the tax laws, the ethics, and also they act as the signatories to various transactions. Like if you are going to pay for any transactions, donors are also interested to see that those transactions has been authorized by the board members. But this process does not start with the authorization of transactions. This starts with the presentation of the budget to the board so that the budget can be approved by the board members. In certain instances, organization, they will operate and just pay transactions without an approved budget. And and in terms of our funding requirements at SCAT, we will insist and to see a document that has been signed by board members in any transactions that we are involved in with our local development agencies. I know sometimes it's a difficult thing to find signatories because some signatories, they reside in rural villages. They are far away from the office. But we are insisting as funders that there must be a signature of an office bearer, whether it is the secretary or the chairperson of the organization. And as I mentioned, that it is the board that is responsible for the compliance, that the organization must comply with the provisions of the contract. They must not just monitor, they must ensure that the organization, comply. You cannot request money for a car, then you take that money, go and build a house. That will be a deviation from the contractual agreement between a funded organization and a funder. And the organization must know the minute you divert and you do not comply, there are consequences. Funders might also talk about you that organization, when you give them money for shoes, they spend that money, they buy laptops. When you give them money for laptops, they buy jackets. That is not the way to administer financial resources. And there is connectivity or connectedness between a fundraising strategy of the organization and financial management. Meaning that if an organization fails to manage financial resources effectively, you must know that you are not going to be able to fundraise effectively, because funders are interested to see whether you are capable of managing financial resources effectively. And sometimes as people that are working for the civil society, we think that funders, they do not talk. We share information about grantees. We warn each other. Please don't go there. They do not listen when you are engaging them. They do not appreciate the strategic relationship that you are building with them as an entity. The second role of the governance structure is to ensure that there are policies. There are policies about the human resources management function that stipulates and clearly define how you are going to manage your human resources as an organization. They ensure that there is anti-discrimination policies within the organization. There are policies about nepotism. There are policies about conflict of interest. How will you conduct yourself and manage conflict of interest within your organization? They ensure that there is corruption policy and anti-corruption and anti-fraud and anti-bribery and anti-favoritism policy within the organization. But also another important, they also help in terms of defining the organizational strategy, what I called strategic organizational direction. That is the mission, that is the vision, mission, objectives, and the activities of the organization. They assist in terms of developing plans, responding to the what, who, when, where, why, how. That is the responsibility of the governance structure. The issue of the appointment of the director, it is the responsibility of the board. The employment and appointment of the director as the driver of the strategy, that is the responsibility of the board. Because that person is going to be the face of the organization. You know what is strategic about the director of the organization? Because the director of the organization is responsible to execute the human resources management function of the organization, the marketing management function of the organization, the public management function of the organization, the financial management function of the organization. Meaning that if you recruit anybody, anyone as a director, you might not achieve your objective as an NPO. You might wonder why you are not achieving your objectives. And the biggest problem is the director that you have recruited. Because the director of the organization, of a CBO, has the responsibility of performing 6 to 7 functions in an organization. The 6th or 7th or the 8th is the fundraising function, management function of the organization. The 7th one is the administrative management function of the organization. Meaning that if you recruit anyone, anybody, your good friend, Aibu, you are not going to achieve your objective as an organization. I don't want to lie about that one. And the issue of appointment of the director, the coordinator, you must have clearly defined performance agreements. You must be able to assess whether this person is performing, because it does not help to keep that person for 5 years. But for 5 years, you have not been able to attract any funder. But that person had been there serving as a director, and that person is not performing, is not doing what she was supposed to do or what you are supposed to do. Meaning that somewhere, somehow, you need to sit down as the board members and say, my good friend, it's clear that you are not doing well. But after assessing your performance, we think that really, ukhululeke, because you are not performing as we expected you to perform. And that's not a nice thing to do to release a person organization ukumxosha. That's not a good thing to do. But the performance is the responsibility of the governance structure. Another important issue is the issue of risk identification, risk assessment, risk mitigation, risk monitoring and review, and communication and reporting of the risk that the organization is facing. That is the role of the governance structure. And you might think of the financial risk, the legal risk, operational risk, health risk, safety, health and safety risk, environmental risk, reputational risk, cyber security risk. The board or the management committee, that is the responsibility of the management committee in your organization. Another thing that is important is the maintenance and the building of strategic relationship with strategic stakeholders, locally, regional, provincial, national, global. And you must understand there is no global without local, meaning that in these days you can be at a local level, but you can also have an influence at the global level. Once you see yourself that you are in the local level, when people in Europe, when they are looking at you, they see you as an organization that is operating at a global level. There are other roles. I think we've mentioned the issue of convening annual general meetings. I know NPOs, they fail to convene annual general meetings. They do not appreciate the importance of annual general meetings. And the annual general meetings is also about compliance with the legislative framework, also with your constitution. And an organization cannot fail. You know, the minute you fail to comply with your own constitution, then that is the biggest challenge. That is a biggest challenge, because you must also comply with other legislative frameworks in our country. But as we have mentioned the issue of opening the bank account. We have also mentioning the issue of appointing an accounting officer. We have mentioned the issue of preparing financial reports for donors and the NPO Directorate, meaning that the board must ensure that all these activities, the organization adhere to these activities. There is this nice name, fiduciary, is a person or an organization that has a legal and ethical obligation to act in the best interest of another party or a person. Fiduciary, it's a nice terminology. Fiduciary, it's a person or an organization that has a legal or ethical obligation to act in the best interest of another person or a party. Fiduciaries are often in position of authority and expected to manage money or property for someone else, meaning that the board members cannot fail in terms of that responsibility. I want us now to look at the issue of the strategy. The strategy versus the plan.
Just before you do, and I do know this is your last slide, but Jonathan has had his hand up, so I don't know if he wants to add something or go for it, Jonathan.
No, I thought before I forget about the point on the Gokeli about the constitution.
Thank you.
I inserted a note there about reviewing the constitution. Constitutions are, as you correctly said earlier, constitutions are living documents, but they are not static documents.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if participants are aware that in terms of the NPO Act, they are also required to review their constitutions or their trust deeds, the reason I'm raising this, for example, tax laws were amended and approved in Parliament. The NPO Act was amended and approved in Parliament. The Older Persons Act was amended and approved in Parliament, and so forth and so forth. So, as legislation is amended and effected, so the organizations must also review and align the constitutions with those applicable amendments that applies to the NPO sector. So I thought, I just wanted to impress on that issue. Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you, my leader, for that contribution. And I think it is also in line to the issue of the strategy, because we said in your constitution, you have your objectives, your goals, the purpose of the organization. And you must understand that the purpose of the organization is aligned to the needs of the citizens of your target group. And the needs of the target group is not static. That needs can change, meaning that you need to review the constitution and re-strategize. And let's go to the issue of strategy. The board or the management committee is responsible to define the strategy of the organization, choosing what your organization will do to meet the needs of the target group. And all what you are doing must be in line with your constitution. In many instances, you'll discover that organizations, they have plans, activity plans, or strategic plans. But when you go to the constitution, you discover that what is said or stated in the plans is not what is in their objectives in the constitution. There is a contradiction between what is stated. Maybe an organization, when it was set up, it was established, their interest was gender-based violence. But now they have moved, they are more focused on environmental issues. You need to align your constitutional framework or the objectives in your constitution with your projects and programs, so that when you are busy with your fundraising strategy, then there is an alignment in all your documents. Then I think we're going to take the last issue for this session, and I want to appreciate your contribution and your support in this process. With all the technicalities and the challenges that I have encountered in this process. But I want to speak about the plan. My understanding of the process of planning must start with the vision of your organization. But you cannot have a vision and the mission of the organization if you do not have a clear analysis of the problem in your community. You must have a clear analysis of the problem. What is the cause of the problem? What is the root cause? What can be done to address the problem? And what is the extent of the problem? But also, as you are doing that, you need to collect statistical data. And in doing so, you are quantifying the problem so that whoever is asking you about the problem, you are well equipped to respond. But you need also the qualitative data about the problem. What is the problem? Because certain donors will come to you and ask, what is your problem statement? And you will not have a statement, because you must develop a certain statement that demonstrates your understanding of the problem in society. Then you need now to define the vision, define the mission, what are the objectives, and what is your activities. Who is the person responsible? When are you going to execute that? Where? How? And you need also to define the target group. Who are the strategic partners? And also define the resources and also the cost implication of your activities. I thank you. I will take 2 questions. Then after that, we'll close the session.
Thank you very much, Vuyo. I see there's lots of thank yous. Can you amend your constitution? Yes, as Vuyo said, you should absolutely amend your constitution, especially when you are you've changed strategic objectives. Are there any other questions? Yeah, lots of people are saying thank you for the very informative session, Vuyo. Thank you very much, Vuyo. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, Raisibe.
Do you have a template for those issues so that we can develop the constitution according to specific critical issues that you've mentioned? Thank you.
I see Vuyo has put his email address, and his WhatsApp, but maybe it's email, shame. I think he's put his contact details there, and so maybe you can ask him for some tips, or maybe you can ask him to send him an email to ask him if he has a template. Thank you very much, Vuyo, and thank you, Jonathan, also for your help and your insight. Appreciate it, and also Koliwe. Thank you, everyone, and also to the participants who are here, who are going to be at DOS. See you in less than a month's time, in 3 weeks' time, 4 weeks' time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for your nice, kind messages in the chat. Excellent. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.